Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Zonna. Today I'm going to discuss how I have normal cholesterol level despite frequent eating out. After I turned 30, I usually just have been eating 2 meals a day, with at least about 5 hours interval and avoiding snacks in between. It was a journey. It took a couple months before I was in sync with it. And sometimes I slack, but in recent years I have been more consistent and seldom I eat more than 2 meals a day. I also started cleansing my liver, which I plan to do about 3 to 4 times a year. I try to pick a healthy restaurant, but for the most part, I know that the oil that they use for cooking are not very healthy. They use the ones that are usually high in trans fat. Up until today, I still have normal cholesterol levels and all my blood test results are good, and I'm still not in any prescribed medications. Thankfully, I was never admitted in the hospital in my life besides when I gave birth. Having a blood test is very important. You have to know where you're standing with this and monitor, especially if improvement is needed. Adopting a healthy diet and lifestyle should always be the cornerstone. There's so many combinations of diets that have been introduced. We can easily get lost in the sea of diet regimen. Advancing age is associated with gradual increase in plasma concentrations of triglycerides, cholesterol, and low-density lipoproteins, and lower capacity of high-density lipoproteins to remove cellular cholesterol. These changes may contribute to the increased risk of cardiovascular, neurological, and liver disease. Cholesterol metabolism is simultaneously altered in the liver and nervous system in aging. The excretion of cholesterol by the liver in the form of bile acids is an important form of elimination of cholesterol from the body. The liver is the main organ responsible for synthesizing and eliminating excess cholesterol from the body. It is the only organ capable of metabolizing cholesterol into bile acids, representing approximately 1/3 of the cholesterol eliminated from the body. Although some studies have proposed an association between hypercholesterolemia and sporadic Alzheimer's disease, the assumption that high concentrations of peripheral cholesterol impairs the brain function remains controversial. However, recent studies suggest that there may be a non-linear relationship between plasma cholesterol levels and cognitive functions. Bile cholesterol saturation increases with age, increasing the risk of gallstones. The brain is the richest organ in cholesterol with 25% of the total body cholesterol. Importantly, disorders of cholesterol homeostasis in the adult brain are associated with different neurological diseases such as Niemann-Pick, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington, and epilepsy. Elderly individuals had a lower capacity to remove cellular cholesterol when compared to from 20 to 30-year-old adults. Food deprivation or fasting for as short as 24 hours result in almost complete cessation of cholesterol biosynthesis. Similarly, increased meal frequency patterns are associated with a substantial depression in synthesis. In contrast, consumption of oils rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, despite reducing circulating concentrations, increases the cholesterol synthesis rate compared with other fats. The heart is one of the most important organs in our body and it's very sensitive to cholesterol level. Cardiovascular diseases, which includes coronary heart disease, cerebrovascular disease or stroke, and peripheral vascular disease, are the most common non-communicable diseases globally, accounting for an estimated 31% of all deaths worldwide. Many diets have been introduced besides our own cultural diets. A plant-based diet, Mediterranean, ketogenic, and other ones. There is a resurgence of interest in ketogenic diets. Nutritional ketosis usually occurs when restricting the carbohydrate intake to below 20 to 50 grams per day, but there are individual variations. I will discuss a result on a study conducted about this keto diet on this video as well. Predominantly, Plant-based dietary patterns emphasize a higher intake of fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grain products, nuts, seeds, and vegetable oils, and limited intake of foods from animal origins such as low or non-fat dairy, lean meat, and fish. View the macronutrients specific for a plant-based diet are the intake of more complex carbohydrates and plant-based proteins next to a lower total fat intake, especially fewer saturated and trans fats and more unsaturated fatty acids. Plant-based diets are also higher in dietary fibers. Look into the macro and micro components of a plant-based diet in the management of dyslipidemia and the role of plant-based dietary patterns in cardiovascular health. Fat from animal origins such as fatty meat, butter, full-fat dairy, as well as the tropical oils, coconut and palm oil are typically rich in saturated fatty acids. Trans fatty acids, unsaturated fatty acids are naturally found in butter, full-fat dairy, and meat from ruminants like beef, sheep, and goats. Other sources of trans fat are partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, and trans fats are commonly found in commercial baked goods like pastries, convenience foods, and battered or deep-fried foods are not cholesterol-friendly diet. Replacing saturated fats with carbohydrates, i.e. consuming low-fat, high-carbs diet, lowers both LDL and HDL, and raises fasting triglycerides, and therefore does not improve the overall blood lipid profile. Some studies have shown that replacing a 5 gram per day of dietary fats like margarine, mayonnaise, butter, or daily fat with a higher intake of olive oil was associated with 5 to 7% lower risk of congestive heart disease and total cardiovascular disease. The Mediterranean-type diet supplemented with either extra virgin olive oil or with nuts significantly lowered major CVD events by around 30% compared to a low-fat diet. It should, however, be noted that these dietary patterns differ in more aspects than just dietary fat and fatty acids intake. Observational studies have consistently shown that higher intakes of fish oil, and EPA and DHA is associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease, especially congestive heart disease risk in the general population. Olive oils, if used for cooking, has to be in low heat or added to the food after cooking. Mostly added to breads, but I only buy breads once in a blue moon. You can't really find any breads in my kitchen. I prefer bananas. I fry them in coconut oil for breakfast or dessert. Coconut oil, despite its popularity and health benefits, I use it in moderation because its consumption significantly raises LDL compared with other vegetable oils. Thus, coconut oil should not be recommended as a healthy vegetable oil for cardiovascular disease risk reduction. Despite its HDL raising effect, eating fish improves brain health and cholesterol friendly. I prefer wild salmon. Sardines, mackerel, and other fatty fish are high in omega-3 fats. Seafoods needs to be part of your diet. There's a study replacing animal and dairy fat with plant-based sources of fats or polyunsaturated fats is linked with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. A natural way to reduce cholesterol level is the most beneficial. Avocados and olives are good sources. Berberine, i.e. 3-turmeric, also appears to inhibit the growth of fat cells at the molecular level. Recommendations for total fat intake typically ranges from 20 to 35%. Intakes exceeding 35 to 40% should be avoided. Regular fish consumption, especially fatty fish, is also advised as part of a plant-based heart-healthy dietary pattern. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds are low in saturated fats and often low in energy density compared to foods from animal sources. Eggs are good sources as well. Even if the egg yolk has higher cholesterol, it's mostly the good cholesterol. It's one of my favorite. I just don't fry it every time. I switch it up to boiling it. A healthy diet should be rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, high-fiber foods, and fish, and should contain a small amount of saturated fats and trans fat. Replacing saturated fats in the diet with unsaturated fatty acids is known to lower LDL. In addition to these recommendations, some food ingredients such as plant sterol or steno soy protein and isoflavones may help reduce cholesterol levels. Increased dietary fibers intakes are associated with significantly lower prevalence of cardiovascular disease and lowers cholesterol concentration of about 5 to 10%. Beyond LDL cholesterol lowering effects, other benefits have been observed on hypertension and diabetes mellitus. When you have ailments or failing organs, then you will be subjected to a strict diet. That's why a balanced, healthy diet and no extremes is better early on. The data on the study suggests that feeding healthy young normal weight women a ketogenic, low-carb, high-fat diet induces a deleterious blood lipid profile. The elevated LDL cholesterol should be a cause of concern in young, healthy, normal weight women following this kind of low-carb, high-fat diet. The LCHF or low-carb, high-fat diet increased LDL cholesterol in every woman tested in the study. However, there is no consensus from recent meta-analysis regarding the relationship between dietary saturated fat and the risk of cardiovascular disease. Hence, there are conflicting data regarding LCHF diet and cardiovascular health. The basic principle of a lipid-lowering diet is restriction of saturated fat intake. This can be achieved by reducing the consumption of dairy products and fats of animal origin. Conversely, a high-carbohydrate diet has a hypertriglyceridemic effect that is more pronounced in individuals with diabetes or pre-existing hypertriglyceridemia. When high-carbohydrate, high-fiber diets are consumed, the hypertriglyceridemic effects of carbohydrate is counteracted by dietary fibers. It can be concluded that synthesis as a contributor to circulating cholesterol concentrations is sensitive to many dietary factors. Energy deprivation results in the greatest decline in synthesis, likely accounting for a beneficial decline in circulating cholesterol concentrations observed with weight loss. I believe in balanced diet. Fasting to keep it all simple and inexpensive saves time and stress, and a well-rounded exercise routine are the best solutions. There's so many different kinds of diet that are being endorsed, and it can be overwhelming and confusing. Too much of one or two kinds of meals, eating the same thing over time, day by day, is not good, and stressing so much on weighing your food and trying to measure calories can be very stressful. Extremes can trigger inflammation, and it's not a fun way to live your life. Switching it up and fasting is one of my easiest, most convenient solution, especially after I eat out a big meal with friends. And the next day, I would fast for at least 24 hours. It helps a lot too when I'm busy. I don't have to think of food. Extreme diet should only be temporary. If you are trying to achieve a goal such as you are going for a physical competition, but the body cannot sustain it for a long term, eventually you will need moderation, and a well-balance is usually the winner. Just like if you do exercises, if you only like to always lift weights and you don't do much cardio, that is not good. Heart muscles are one of the most important muscles. Skeletal muscle gains are more popular to look good, and also that is why stroke rehab is more popular than cardiac rehab, but both are very important. I do prioritize cardio because I don't need to have a very high muscle strength to maintain my daily activities, and certainly I don't like to see too much muscles. I like to look more feminine. Too much strength training beyond your body weight can handle is also bad for your joints, and too much repetition of contractions in the same areas over time could lead to a bad case of arthritis, but this is for another topic. I have combinations of many diets, and at the end of the day, I eat foods I like to eat, and until now, my blood tests remain very good. I hope you learned something today. If you know of friends and family who could benefit on this topic, please do share to them. Please support my channel, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time spent watching. Please stay tuned for my next topic and hope you check out my other videos as well. Take care and always stay happy and healthy.